What's up, guys? It's me, Tony, again. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different setup. You guys see here. Got my PC, this webcam. Got a mic. Hopefully that kind of, helps with the audio. I'm kind of just trying this out for this video, seeing what's going to happen, how it kind of turns out. Today I'm going to be talking about every NBA team. Some of them won't get as much love as you probably think they deserve, because I don't think they're worth talking as much as some of them, the other teams. But yeah, let's get right into it. First team, Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, after making the finals, or the Eastern Conference Finals last year, the Hawks this season have been definitely subpar. Currently 10th in the East, and they've definitely regressed, especially on the defensive side. They're currently fourth. They have the fourth worst defensive rating in the NBA this year, compared to kind of being a middling team on defense last season, being 18th in the league. Hopefully they can pick it up. I know Clint Capella hasn't been the player he was last season. Hopefully they can kind of get him back in the second half of the season. I still think they'll make the play-in. I still think they'll fight for an 8th seed. And I think they could be a tough out in the playoffs. They can beat any team if they get hot. So I definitely look out for that. Next on the list, we have Boston Celtics. Kind of the opposite of the Hawks in a sense, though they did start off kind of poorly this season. A lot of people thought they were going to kind of break out this season. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. The Celtics have been pretty much on fire since 2022 began, winning 11 out of the last 13 games. And unlike the Hawks, the Celtics defense has definitely become their identity this season. Teams are struggling to score 100 points on them, reach triple digits. It is definitely a far cry as to what we've seen in the past, because they're playing extremely well on the defensive side. Still running the ISOs. I like the Derek White. The Derek White pickup a lot for them. Obviously, he's a good defender. He's a better playmaker than what they had, and I think it's a really solid team. Another team that I would not want to be in a playoff series against. Moving on to Brooklyn. I'll keep it short. This team has the most ifs of any team in the league right now. Their success relies on two things. KD's health and Kyrie's availability. If they don't have either or both of those things, it's going to be a pretty short postseason for them. Charlotte, I don't know why they didn't go all in for Miles Turner. Montrezl Harrell, though, isn't a horrible consolation prize. The team still needs interior defensive help, and personally, I'd be surprised if they made the playoffs at this point. They've been pretty bad the last month or so, and obviously, the offense is good, LaMelo's good, but their defense is just horrible. Chicago, obviously, DeMar DeRozan has been playing at an MVP level so far this season. I'm not sure what the status of Patrick Williams is, but getting him back, I'm assuming before the postseason, will be a huge addition for them. Definitely going to be a top 4 seed, I believe the Chicago Bulls will be. They're going to be an interesting team to watch when it comes to the playoffs. Cleveland, certainly the Cavaliers are ahead of schedule this season, and I think regardless of what happens in the postseason, this season for the Cavs can be labeled a success. The big thing for me is what will happen with Colin Sexton and his extension at the end of the season, because that could potentially make or break the future of this team, whether they sign and trade for someone else or just sign him to an extension. It'll be interesting to see. I hope they make the right decision. I'm not sure what that right decision is quite yet. Obviously, the playoffs will potentially show that, but they're a good team. Nice young core. They should be fine regardless. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks. Our first Western Conference team of the video. Luka has quietly been having a monster February. He's averaging nearly a 36-point triple-double. I think it's 36, 9, and 9 or so over the last month. Playing phenomenal basketball. I don't know how much I like the Spencer Dinwiddie acquisition at the trade deadline. I can understand moving on from Porzingis, kind of splitting his contract or his salary into two players, Dinwiddie and I forget who the other player was. This team is obviously very reliant on Luka, and it seems like they're going to still be reliant on Luka. Their defense is better from last season and the years prior, thanks to Jason Kidd. I don't know how far that takes them in the playoffs. As of right now, I can see another first-round exit, but we'll see. We never know. Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray and MPJ are slated to return before the regular season concludes. I've seen things saying sooner rather than later. I don't know how soon that is. No one's really given a concrete timeline on that. That would certainly benefit Jokic. as it would take a lot of the defensive responsibility off of his hands. And I think they're the 6th seed right now. A streak in any direction, winning or losing, would cause a major shift in the Western Conference standings. Just like with a lot of these teams, a few off games from Jokic at this point would be very, very bad for playoff hopes for the Nuggets, because the bottom of the West is very tight knit. Moving on to Detroit, the Pistons, pretty underwhelming, to be honest. I don't know what you'd really expect from this kind of team. They're doing what they should be doing though. Keep losing games, keep developing Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey, and adding a floor spacing big in the draft. Jabari Smith Jr. Would be really huge for this team. Obviously, they need the lottery luck for that, but they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. I wouldn't be surprised if they got one of the top 3 picks. Moving on to Golden State, with Steph Curry being in the midst of his worst healthy season in terms of shooting percentage of his career, the Warriors are still the 2nd best team record-wise in the league. Personally, I trust that Curry is shooting woes will return to normal, which I'm pretty sure he's shooting like 38% from 3, which isn't necessarily like horrible just in general for a player. But I know the last few months have been down ever since he's been chasing the 3-point record. But I mean, it's the Warriors. They're deep-ish, especially with Clay back. They'll need Draymond back, obviously, but I'm sure they'll take it easy till the playoffs come around, and that's when we will see the best brand of Warriors basketball. Houston Rockets, halfway through his rookie season, it looks like the Rockets made a mistake taking Jalen Green over Evan Mobley. Of course, time will tell whether that was the right or wrong choice. Interested to see the future of KPJ on this roster, because the KPJ lead guard experiment doesn't seem to be the most productive as of right now, though they really don't have another option at point guard. Expect a lot more Jalen Green initiating offense through the second half of the season. They don't really have much to play for, obviously, playing for a lottery position. Maybe buy out John Wall. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but regardless, I mean, the team's going to be bad. Indiana, the Pacers, I am extremely glad that this team finally decided to make a decision one way or the other. Dealing LeVert and Sabonis were the right moves, in my opinion. I think they probably could have moved on from Miles Turner as well. I can understand that if you're going to trade Sabonis away, keeping him. They got a major building block in Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm very excited to see him spread his wings as a lead guard, as a primary scoring option, hopefully, in Indiana. Should be fun. He's got a really high ceiling. I really want to see him succeed. Moving on to the Los Angeles Clippers. PG and Kawhi have been out for a while, and the Clippers, mostly credit to Ty Lue, Coach of the Year candidate in my opinion. They've done a really admirable job of treading water thus far. I'm pretty sure they're still the 8th seed. Reports are saying that PG and or Kawhi should be back pretty soon, and obviously they're a playoff team technically without them. It will be very interesting to see how far they can ascend with them. Moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers, it seems as if the Russell Westbrook experiment has failed thus far. The construction of this team was poor from the beginning. I know a lot of people, me including, were worried about the spacing. Once the Russ deal happened, it was very consensus. Everybody had problems with the spacing on this roster, the construction of this roster. If that's happening, that should be kind of tell all as to the direction of this team's going. I know I made a video earlier this season, or before the season, saying they could be under the radar. Clearly that was wrong. It looks as if LeBron is, or the writing on the wall is that LeBron will be out sooner than later, especially with the whole thing with his son getting drafted, a few years, stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, Malik Monk, he's looked like the 3rd star more often than Russ at this point. He's having a career year, so that's good for him. AD is injured more often than not. LeBron is averaging like 29, like highest scoring season in like a decade for him. Clearly that's not really doing much for the team. Even if they made the playoffs, for me it would be a surprise if they won a series at all. Kind of just like last season. The future for this team looks really bleak, and I don't want to keep harping on the Lakers. So I'm going to move on to the Memphis Grizzlies. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't one of my favorite teams to watch in the NBA. Ja Morant does incredible things on a nightly basis. I feel like I say that all the time. But he has them as the 3rd best record in the NBA, behind the Suns and the Warriors. They're seemingly ahead of schedule. They have a really nice roster, really nice young core. Kind of similarly to the Cavs. I think this season, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, will be a success. I think they should win a playoff series. I wouldn't expect them to make a Western Conference Finals run just yet. But they need the playoff experience. They got that last year. Hopefully they can improve on that this year. I'm very scared that it'll be disappointing in the playoffs, I'm not going to lie, but I do want them to do well. Moving on to the Miami Heat. Even as the first seed in the East so far, it still kind of seems like the Heat are flying under the radar. One of the most battle-tested teams in the NBA, and a team that I wouldn't want to face in the playoffs, and I don't think anyone should want to face in the playoffs. Definitely one of the deeper rosters in the league. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, obviously Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, players like that, PJ Tucker. A lot of really gritty guys, a lot of guys that you don't want to see in the playoffs. Moving on to the Milwaukee Bucks. Ironically, I would take the Bucks in a series versus the Heat. When Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday play, this team is almost unbeatable. I'm not sure of the record they have this season together. I know it's a lot of wins, very few losses. I like the Serge Ibaka addition at the deadline, especially if Brook Lopez will be out for the remainder of the season. I'm not sure what his status is quite yet. It's leaning that he will not return this season. So the Ibaka move was really, really underrated in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if they made another finals run, won another finals. But the East is very, very interesting this season. Moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have all the talent in the world to make the playoffs this season, but I kind of have a nagging feeling that they'll miss the playoffs again. I want them to make the playoffs. Hopefully I'm wrong, because I think Anthony Edwards deserves to play on a national stage because he's fucking electric. New Orleans Pelicans. What the fuck is going on with Zion Williamson? It seems like they'll trade him, maybe. I know reports were saying that he didn't even text CJ McCollum when he got traded to the team, but still like a week or two removed from the trade talking to him. That's kind of weird in my opinion. Outside of that, the addition of CJ McCollum is a win now move just in terms of making the playoffs, which I think they have a great chance of doing this season. I think right now they're on the outside looking in of the play-in, but I think they have what it takes to make the playoffs. Moving on to the New York Knicks. Julius Randle just isn't the same player we saw last year. RJ Barrett, though, is having a really solid 2022. It looks as if the Knicks will be returning back to the lottery after their 1-year hiatus. What the hell was the point of trading for Cam Reddish, especially if you're not going to play him? Pretty sure they gave a first-round pick. And, I mean, Kevin Knox is nothing, but, I mean, you gave a first-round pick for Cam Reddish. And he's like not playing, so I mean, what the hell. Moving on to Oklahoma City Thunder. Josh Giddey looks like one of the best rookies of the draft class so far. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hasn't played since January, but honestly, it's felt like it's been longer than that. I mean, they're not in the business of winning games anyway, so really, who cares? Orlando Magic, nothing too special here. Franz Wagner looks really good, but when's Markelle Fultz coming back? John Isaac's just collecting paychecks right now. He hasn't played since like the bubble, I think. What the fuck's going on with that? Philadelphia 76ers. James Harden's a Sixer. Obviously, I made a video on that a few weeks ago. There is no reason for the Sixers not to win a ring while James Harden and Joel Embiid are on this roster, unless we just get like the worst fucking injury luck of all time. Also, Tyrese Maxey is so much better than anyone could have imagined this season. Phoenix. I think the Chris Paul injury could be a big blessing in disguise for this team. Especially if he doesn't try to rush back from it, which I don't anticipate he will, because Chris Paul is very prone to getting injured towards the end of the regular season, into the playoffs, or in the playoffs in general. So I think kind of getting it out of the way right now would be very good. Letting Book be more of a playmaker should be beneficial for this team, and letting Cam Payne knock some of the rust off should be good for this team as well. Portland Trailblazers, pretty simple. Trade Dame. Why the hell is he still here? He traded everyone else. Build with Anthony Simons. At this point, he should not be traded at all. Sacramento Kings. His front office deserves the very worst, in my opinion. I have sweetened towards the trade a little bit because I think De'Aaron Fox, after being underrated for a lot of his career, is kind of being a bit overrated. A little. The hate is unwarranted for De'Aaron Fox this year. He's having a bit of a down year, but he's still only like 23, 24. He's still good. He'll be fine. Sabonis should be nice for them. He's not like a win now-ish piece. He's a try to get him into the play-in piece, which I guess if you're a Kings fan, it's kind of the only happiness you might see in the next coming years. But the Kings front office turned down the Simmons package for Halliburton and instead traded him for Sabonis, which to me is a little weird because I think Sabonis is not better than Simmons. If you don't think so, comment down below. San Antonio, I'm kind of torn between keeping and trading DeJounte Murray. I love the thought of him in San Antonio for the long term, but it doesn't really make sense in relation to the rest of the team. The rest of the team's kind of just a bunch of guys that haven't really reached their potential. So I wouldn't be surprised if they traded him, but I could definitely see them keeping him. The Toronto Raptors, kind of been underrated all season, and I think they could absolutely make the playoffs this season. Scotty Barnes has been really good. Thank God Nick Nurse got his hands on him, because I think he could have been more of a 3-and-D, put him in the corner guy if he was drafted anywhere else. And Fred VanVleet's kind of doing the stuff that Kyle Lowry used to do, which is obviously really good, because Kyle Lowry was arguably a top 10 point guard in his time in Toronto. Utah Jazz, for the third year in a row, I really don't expect this roster to do much of anything outside of the regular season, and I don't blame D. Mitch for being frustrated and soon probably requesting a trade or voicing his frustrations more. And finally, the Washington Wizards. Feels like years ago when this team was the 1 seed, in November. Beal opting into season-ending surgery should tell you all that you need to know about that situation. And shout out Kyle Kuzma for hooping. But ironically enough, his numbers aren't too far off from the numbers he was posting with the Lakers. That was me talking about every NBA team. If you think I missed something about your team, comment down below. You guys kind of shed some light on some of the stuff that I don't be hitting, especially because I can't say I watch every game of every team, because that's impossible, but you guys do shed light on stuff. I do like that a lot. Other than that, obviously, do the YouTube stuff, comment, subscribe, share if you really want to. That really helps me out a lot. Follow the Twitter at 4QTony. It'll be link in the description. Other than that, peace.